Welcome everyone to the 258th weekly MLP Drawing School live critique stream. It's
What?
February 9th, and it's
Yes.
6:07 in my time zone. In your time zone, it might differ. I hear that's how time zones work. Someone
Really?
correct me if I'm wrong here. Time zones might have been eradicated. I'm not sure anymore.
We could do it. We could be the first to eradicate time zones.
All right.
It's kind of what the internet is, like a timeless zone.
Actually, it's got a time zone. It's called Internet Standard Time. The Internet Standard Time.
Oh.
Yeah, Tosh brought this up a while ago.
Yeah. I remember this.
Internet Standard Time is when you first sign on is good morning. That is the start of the day. When you're finally ready to sign off, it is good night. That is the end of the day. Internet Standard Time. Everything is relative to when you finally got on. It's pretty great. I like it.
Very useful. Very useful.
Yeah. So as you can hear, there's a small horde of robots and yeah. So we got the robot queen Alley Claw.
Hello. Sorry for robot today.
It's weird that it unroboted at that time.
Damn it. It's my internet. I can't control it. We have a snowstorm currently, so that's probably what's really messing it.
Yes, blocking them satellites.
So they can't microwave your brain and steal your thoughts.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Directly beneath them, we got the new joiner, Len.
Yes, hello. This is my second time.
I hear the second time hurts more than the first because your muscles are all like, ow, why did I art last time? And then the second time you're still like, but I'm not recovered. Wait, is that exercise?
I've drawn more than one time.
What? I don't believe that.
I was drawing just before I entered the stream.
Lies. Just our newest member.
I don't think you can draw more than once.
Yeah. It's like a fire and forget it.
One picture for your life, and then that's it.
After that, we got Pixinop.
Hello, good morning. I woke up
zones.
about 2 minutes ago, and I was like, I think they've already started. I think I'm late, but let's join anyway.
We always value your presence nonetheless.
Yay.
It's a toodle.
You're trying to be enthusiastic.
And there's also a squiggly pregnant lady, man riding a scooter, kickflip, heart.
You're trying to describe the hair gun. I forgot that I hadn't changed my name yet.
Also known as Fluffy's Eye.
Oh, I was
Hello.
so confused.
I was too. They say Fuwa's eye, which is Fluffy's eye in Japanese. It was a 5 a.m. board thing, and I forgot to undo it.
That's the horde joining us today. Great. It's gonna be excellent. We can already tell the level of energy we're displaying is quite high. Be good. Be a good day.
I've got those raccoon eyes. We're good to go. Panda eyes.
All right. As always, if you got horses, fire them at us. We love to make some glue. Or
make sure you're wearing a helmet first. You got to be safe.
Absolutely.
Oh, we're not making glue. What? We're not making any glue here.
No, CPC already bought enough from the store, probably.
No, that was glitter glue.
Well, it's
whoa,
just an upgrade, really, isn't it?
Who allowed CPC to have glitter? I thought we talked about this. She's not allowed glitter.
Listen, it was either that or a knife. You pick your battles here, okay?
Shit.
Yeah, it's true.
All right. As I was saying, if you have any art, fire it towards us. If you have any questions, fire it towards us too. We'll be here next week if you need us. We make a weekly post every week that you can hunt us down we only make it on that day just in case we aren't going to be there. We don't want to be monsters and delete it before the end. So let's get on with these horse-like beings. First picture up is by Embroidered Equations. Putting it here for the stream. Not sure yet if it's going to turn into a painting after or just after some general crit, but also color suggestions for the blurry blobs of fish in the background. Tried out orange first in #critique, but it didn't seem to fit with the pink red to blue color scheme of the rest. Interesting. So blobs of fish. I do like just darkening it. Like if you go swimming, or you know what? Let's use a medium that we've all seen. Because who goes in water these days? No, go watch Finding Nemo. Okay, and during Finding Nemo, when the fish are far away, they get that occlusion that happens because light scattering and the magicness of liquids, and they become a blurry blob in the distance. Indistinct. Things like fins and tails don't really stick out unless if they're a large feature on them. So what you're doing up here, I think that's good. Like if you're to keep that going with the color schemes that you're already putting out here of the blues and purples and pinks, that would be nice. I wouldn't go for anything highly contrasting because underwater light is sort of lesser. Unless if it's expelling its own light, you aren't really going to get much beyond those blues. The purple's already a bit weird, but it's cool, so let's stick with it. Because we got like a mer horse. A merce. Yeah.
A mermere.
Obviously not a seahorse. That'd be crazy. Because we saw them. We don't see them.
Dooby-doo, doo-dooby-doo.
It's
something
one of those
I want to say. I don't know if you've seen it yet. I posted 2 tutorials right underneath where you shared in voice chat. Highly recommend scroll up, give them a read, give them a look. They have a lot of great information about underwater stuff. I mean, I can attempt, but I'm not comfortable with an Aggie's tools to do the effects that I would want to
Yeah,
accomplish.
it looks pretty cool. I want to give it a try now. I've seen you post those.
Yeah, there's some real like especially that first one, the Twitter thread I posted. This person
Mhm.
like does gorgeous, gorgeous art, and they do a lot of underwater themed stuff, and they have a really nice understanding of how to manipulate that particular environment. And they have a lot of good insight. This is just their perspective of it, but I think it's a good perspective, at least another one to throw under your belt.
Yeah, it's always helpful.
Yeah. So my critique is go check out those tutorials because they'll do a better job at explaining than what I could right now.
Ali is the tutorial master.
But something I can add, I think you were wondering what else to make it feel like underwater bubbles, bubbles.
Yeah,
Even
lots of
fish
you
make
want lots of
bubbles.
like debris. So like fish and bubbles are two very good ones. And I think also you can do like little sort of scatterings of like dust and stuff. You know, there's always sort of like little bits of debris in the water as well, depending on what type of water or the location and environment, how deep it is, that sort of thing.
Seaweeds, corals. There's lots of
Fish poo.
Yeah.
growth. I mean, there's probably plenty of carcasses floating around too, but I don't think that's the aesthetic the Strawling's going for. So
What a weird amalgamation
plastic.
of things.
Don't forget a plastic bag, maybe one of those, weird soda can things. Let's get real. Let's get
Oh,
realism
fine.
in here.
You got to draw a little pinchy crab sitting like walking along on the sand.
How are you guys doing?
Nice things.
Oh, hi, Unshaken. This is a critique stream right now.
Oh
We
shoot, I
asked
am so
that
sorry.
you. Oh, it's okay. It's okay. We're just letting you know. You can stay in the voice channel, but we'll just be doing. You're free to talk afterwards, but we're just. It's
Oh,
with me
sorry.
and critique. You're okay. It's okay. It's all good here. We're very chill.
No, this is professional. That'll be $1,000 fine.
Wait, we're getting
Eating
paid?
cookies.
Professional with a 15-year-old in chat.
Also, my new headcanon and the reason why Ali sounds like this is because we're doing an underwater piece. She's
Yep.
it's all bubbly.
All right.
Apologize.
So, Embroidered. First of all, I love this. I I really like the kind of development that you've done in this in terms of the colors of the lines and how everything else interacts. Up here, I've added a Woolies bag for the memes, but the more important stuff is that you can see the little tiny just flecks of like low opacity white there, just like sort of calling those bubbles to mind and that sort of stuff. Just like something that's really important for this is just general weird textures and that kind of stuff. And this is probably a place where looking at screenshots from something like Finding Nemo or other sorts of animated simplified water designs will probably be really helpful, because you can just pull effects and pull little tricks and stuff straight from that. What I've also done is I've also done a really low opacity some like streaks just running across. You want these sorts of things running both sort of behind, like back here, but also sort of running a little bit like in front, because different bits of the water are going to have sort of different refractivities and all sorts of like weird stuff. And so like having some of these kinds of things will probably just make it like feel a little bit both a little bit more like actual like oceany sort of water, but also just like a little bit more interesting as well. The stuff like I think is this purple stuff meant to be sort of coral?
I think so. I see like little
Hmm.
shapes like in like
I,
sort of there's
I've
some
I've
shapes.
I've just added those shapes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I think if it's meant to be something like coral, then one of the really interesting things will probably be to figure out a good way to sort of just like add, or just to like experiment a bit and work out what sorts of textures work for the thing that you're trying to represent. Which is something honestly where the concept of texture studies would probably be good. Something that I've seen professional artists do sometimes is what they will do is they'll get, let me erase the Woolies bag. By Woolies bag, you're a good meme for a little bit. Is you'll have a circle or something like that, and then you will decide what to draw on top. To sort of like, if you're going for scales, you might draw like something like that, and then you'll kind of decide, okay, where is the light coming from, and then you'll, based on that, you will sort of decide, while you're looking at reference, you'll sort of do something along these lines, and basically just try to work out, okay, what exactly do I need to do to sort of make something that looks like this texture that I've seen in the reference. And these sorts of texture studies can sort of help you work out how to make realistic looking textures, sorts of things. If you look at an artist called, I know I suggest his name a lot here, but KNKL, they have some really interesting sorts of texture study stuff that might be useful. I'm not sure who did these things, but does whoever did them want to talk about it?
Just me. I'd like to show movement with bubbles, honestly, when it's underwater. Even though I don't draw a lot of underwater stuff, bubbles is the easiest way to show motion. I also added
I
a
think so.
couple of reflective things. I don't know. I see it sometimes. I don't know if it's accurate.
When I did see these ones on the tail at first, I thought, "Ooh, that's an interesting sort of octopus." Oh, like an interesting kind of like an octopus texture stuff.
Oh,
But these ones are like really obviously bubbly sorts of stuff, and that's really good. Yeah, whenever you're doing something like this, it'll always be a case of messing with textures and trying to work out sort of exactly how to represent everything.
And there's so many options, right? Like, sure, we all take everything's based in realism, but there's like a bajillion ways to interpret stuff. So
It reminds me of the Pixar team one time talking about. Oh, sorry, I forgot who did Finding Nemo, but the Finding Nemo team was working on water for that movie,
Mhm.
and once they finished, they showed it to people, and people were like, "Okay, why are you just showing us like actual like photo videos of water?" They actually made it too realistic for the style that they were going for, and they had to dial it back and make it more cartoony.
Wow.
That's amazing.
So, so don't be too scared to just mess around with references and see what works and steal style stuff from them,
Yeah.
because that's what all the professional artists do.
Literally in the one Twitter thing I recommended earlier, this artist goes into how they studied like Lilo and Stitch and Ponyo and stuff to figure out how to simplify water, and so it's like everything's a good resource, really.
Mhm.
Yeah. Good art though. Good underwater art. Really fun and swooshy.
Mm. If you do want to figure out how bubbles work underwater and all that sort of stuff, it might even be a good idea to, if you're in the pool at some point, just like spend half an hour messing about with your hands and stuff and being like, okay, how do bubbles work underwater? How do they look?
So your assignment is to go play in a pool?
Yes.
Why not?
I wish that was
Why
my
not?
homework.
Ellie, you can do
Maybe
it
all of
too,
our
but
homework.
right now it's winter, so
My pool's a little
What
frozen
if it's
right
an
now.
indoor pool though?
I
Probably
wish.
not safe right now.
A bath
Oh
is
god,
just
yeah.
a bath is
Really,
just a
really
small pool.
chlorinated.
A bath is a small pool.
A bath is a small pool, and
You can still make motions in the water and play bubbles. So yeah.
Fish tank.
and a sink full of dishes is a smaller pool.
Oh, so you're just telling her or telling them to do their dishes. Got it. Got it. All right, let's move on to the next one. Oh, that was the
Super
wrong
cool
button.
picture. I liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reminds me a lot of Aurora. Was that their name? Who did a lot of underwater horse?
Embroidered was
No,
their name.
yeah, Embroidered did the picture.
No.
Aurora.
I think
Aurora.
you're
Auroria?
Auroria, yeah.
Yeah.
Or Aurora.
Another user
We
who
have
used
like
to hang around here.
there's like 3 different Auroras. So I
There
don't.
was Oro/Aura, and then there's Auroria, and then there's Aurelia.
It's too many. Brain. Dyslexic
Too many.
brain.
All right, our next picture up is by Dot. Going to throw that in, please. Mostly interested in texture, shading, lighting, and such, but anything goes. Anything goes.
I just want to say, really awesome that you push yourself. I think a few times I mentioned like push hard on those lights and shades and whatnot, and I think you're doing really good at pushing yourself. I feel like art is a never ending attempt at pushing yourself, so don't feel like you should stop now or retreat. But yeah, it's really cool that you tried like a bunch of different things this time around.
I wonder why she's so angry. Like, sleeping horse should be happy. Sleeping horse should be restful.
She's thinking about Trixie because Trixie stole her yogurt.
Yeah, that
or
is a
something.
very sort of restless appearance. Maybe she's having a bad dream. Maybe that was the intention.
One of the things that DOP sort of worked on for this one was hue shifting in the shadows and light
Yeah, I
areas
remember
and that sort
you
of
talking
stuff.
about that in the critique channel.
And they did a really nice job with it, and sort of you can see it up here and sort of let's pick a color that actually shows up here in the hair and around this kind of an area. I think you mentioned this spot in particular as sort of a sunburnty sort of looking thing. What I can see when I go from here to here, if I just like hold down Alt and then just start like selecting colors, I can see the appropriate sort of color, the appropriate sort of hue shift. Like starts off here and then it goes a little bit further, and then it goes a little bit. I can see it sort of getting warmer along as I go, but I think that if your intention wasn't to make this area look a little bit sunburnt, and to instead make it look lit up, what you would probably want to do is at the same time as you shift it warmer here, also shift it lighter. So don't be scared of plain and simple. Just picking the color, pulling it towards white, or even just like pulling it a little bit up and keeping it a little bit saturated,
Hmm.
and then just doing
Yeah,
stuff like
you
that.
want diagonal movements, right? Like you want to go more saturated and darker, or more saturated and lighter. Usually, unless you specifically need to use more desaturated values for something. For the light and shadow, you want to sort of push those colors to make it look more vibrant. And how much you push them depends on the picture. Because if you do it very much, it's not wrong. It can look very nice on a particularly stylized, or very sort of warm or cartoony piece. Because it has that very sort of like warm candy looking feel. But you might want something a little bit less, like, pushing the saturation. But if you go just like to darker, then it ends up making like bleeding the colors out and looking really sort of not nice. So that's why we sort of give this advice.
Something that I really like doing is doing these sorts of things, which is just a little having a little rectangle or something like that where you can check easily the sort of transition between colors. And then once I've got sort of this sort of thing decided on, I can use it in my picture.
Something I like to do, sometimes when I'm working with like a more painterly piece, if I have a color palette I'm working with, I'll make a ball like I'm doing in the top here and kind of make my transition shadows, and I'll just color pick from that ball as I need. I haven't finished it yet, but yeah, you just kind of like slam together a little. Do we have like a
Hmm.
Oh, they don't have an over oh, they do have overlay. Also, ooh, something I wanted to ask, you're not here, so you can't answer, but I'd be curious if you're doing this all in one layer, or are you using the different color modes? Because I find that very helpful for finding a good color palette, is working with the color modes available in the
Yeah.
software to get a nicer hue shift.
I will say that the art of trying to sort of find a shift like this that like conveys the sorts of the color of the thing and of the light that you're sort of wanting to express is pretty difficult. I know there are some programs out there where you can like put in a few colors, put in like a color of light, and it'll show you like the highlight and the shadow color and all that sort of weird stuff.
Cool.
I don't remember the name of it at the moment, but if I do run into it, I will link it because it's really useful. And a ball like this is super useful. Can recommend it always, all the time, forever.
I think I mentioned this last time, and you might want to, like, I don't know, slap me for it, but really practicing this kind of stuff on smaller objects first to kind of pick your color palette. Just practicing on basic 3D shapes can really help when going into a more complex object. There's less questioning going on, and it's more like, okay, I built myself an instruction manual. Now I can color pick from this pre-made 3D object and take it to the more complex 3D object I'm about to color and shade. Um, I know it can be boring and if you don't want to, but I still highly recommend to practice on simple shapes. Just take, I don't know, a few basic colors because you can even help with color and like attempting different things with color instead of doing a pony each time. You could make like, I don't know, like 4 boxes, a couple handful of balls, some pyramids, and then make them all different colors. And each one's kind of a different challenge to not only shade properly because shading them differently in a 3D space, but also color picking, seeing what colors work with each color to boost the shadows and the highlights and all that kind of fun stuff, and seeing what you can play with, what you can push, like working with, I don't know, looking at the color wheel. Like sometimes if you wanted to shade an orange pony, Applejack, and you put it on blue, blue is might muddy up the orange because they're opposite colors, right? They're opposite on the color wheel. They come together, they make brown. It's this kind of like color theory stuff to keep in mind. And while brown may not be necessarily a bad thing, it all depends. It depends the values you're putting in. It depends which hue you're putting in. You know, the saturation of it's a lot of questions, a lot of things to tinker with. So doing it on a small scale with just simple 3D objects can let you experiment that more, get more knowledge from it than doing it with every pony you do.
A lot of sort of what I'm messing with at the moment is just in these highlight areas. You can generally, if you're like explicitly pushing it towards the warmer tones, or towards the cooler tones, whatever your sort of light source is, make the area that like is more pushed towards that value lighter. And you can be pretty aggressive with how light you make it, because something along the lines of something along the lines of this might feel a little bit off because you've got the tone shifting going on, and from this area to this area, you've got dark to light. But then right here on this strip, it suddenly gets pretty dark again, but it also does tone shift or hue shift pretty heavily towards the, I presume, the color of the light you're sort of going for. And so it would make more sense if that also continued the value stuff and also got lighter at the same time. And you could even push it more towards yellow if you wanted to. Boom, boom, boom. I'm not sure what kind of light this is, but I don't know, something like that might be interesting. And this is the sort of stuff where like having that ball is really useful because you can like test out different sort of highlight colors and how to shade and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All
I'm
right.
gonna show what I did
Oh.
for the shading real quick, because I
Mhm.
think it might help. I don't really know how to explain what I did, but I just want to show it. Like I know it's been shown like all the way when I was doing it, but I think that the change is quite yes, you know.
Right, you start by going over sort of what you changed and why.
I just darkened the areas that are supposed to be darker, and places where two limbs are close. I darkened that area as well to make it more apparent that those are two different places, and one's like more in the front. So yeah, I don't really know.
That makes sense.
You'll see that a lot in 3D rendering. Something that tends to be referred to as ambient occlusion, which is
Aha, the magic
basically
word.
that. Yeah, which is basically that if you have, say, a surface here and then a surface here, this area where they meet will be darker just because the light rays that sort of enter this area will kind of bounce between these two planes a bit, and will just result in a darker area sort of near the crease. So you'll see that a fair bit with people that do 3D renders. They look at that.
I think that the place that I think was most changed was like right here. When I add the shading that I added, it looks way more different. I don't really know how to explain. I'm sorry.
That's all right. AO is exactly the note. Okay, there you go.
I saw that and I'm like, yes.
You got any other questions for us there, DOP? No? All right. Well, we look forward to seeing the next picture you come up with. Because your improvement is delicious.
Good luck. Have fun.
Have fun. You draw a lot of good art, especially of this horse, and I like it. And I'm always excited to see what sort of extra new stuff you're digging into. So, yeah. No, there's no other ponies, unfortunately. Some other people took them.
Yep. They all
The
ran
show's
away.
My Little Starlight, right? That's
Yeah,
the name of the
exactly.
show.
All right. Our next horse up is by Anxious Flutters, looking for some critique on my art. I went ahead and posted 5 different pictures, so I just grabbed their second one because it had some interesting motion to it. Or, wings.
A
Wings
cuteness
are
to
motion,
it.
right? Yeah.
Heck yeah, wings.
So I'm liking what I'm seeing here. You got good form. Your shape makes a lot of sense. You got like legs and stuff going on. Holy cow! Where's my pen? There's my pen. I do notice your pencil strokes. They seem to be, quite a lot of repeated strokes, quite a lot of very short strokes. Good suggestion. Avoid that if you can. I know it's such an easy crutch to get on, and I still find myself doing it all the time. But the lines I lay down from it are never nearly as good as lines that I spend a few moments, get a few practice strokes, make sure I'm doing the longest, smoothest action I can, and just nailing that line. For traditional, I find because I don't have the ability to control Z as much, doing like taking more time on the line but being consistent about the movement works well for that. I end up doing a lot of like dip pens and brush pens where you don't have a second chance at that line, so you better not screw it up first time, and that's generally how I go about those ones. And it works, I'd say about 80% of the time. The rest of the time it ends up splashing across the table and you end up crying a little bit in the corner.
Yeah.
But dang, is it improvement.
That's what it means, suffering for art.
There's definitely when you're doing this sorts of stuff on traditional, you do need to accept a bit of stuff looking a bit dodgy and all that. I've if you saw what I was doing over here, they're just some some of the exercises that Draw a Box recommends. They're really big proponents of the same doing longer lines, longer, more deliberate lines over shorter, sketchier stuff, because it will make your art look more deliberate, no matter what. I will say with these front hooves, I really like the difference in shape here. Something that whenever it comes to these sorts of poses, something that will be your friend a lot is looking at the wings, looking at the pair of front hooves, looking at the pair of back hooves, and then trying to make them look different. So, for example, with this front hoof that's more towards us, you can probably like pinch that up a little bit more, and you can probably with this back one, you can have that one sort of be less pinched, and then it just creates like a different vibe for these two hooves slightly. Or with this back one, you could even like do something like push it out to the front and have it like sort of be the leading hoof for the rest of the motion. Same with these back hooves, you can like have one that's like more forward and one that's more a bit more backwards or something like that. Just always thinking about how do I add a little bit of extra motion and give this pose a little bit of like extra life by just making the hooves look different is really useful to consider.
To be honest about the back legs, I think that you should be a little bit less scared to exaggerate the back bump over here, because it looks almost non-existent on this one.
Yeah, you can make that sort of the hawk very powerful. Don't be scared.
Like a bird beak. Brr.
Grr.
I will also make another suggestion about the lines. Now that I'm thinking about it, looking at the weight of this pencil, like the how dark it is and how little scratching I see embedded into the paper, I'm thinking it's somewhere around an HB, maybe 2 HB pencil. I would go for something softer, something harder. Uh, and the reason is you're going to put down a lot less graphite, and a lot less graphite is a lot easier to erase. So you still want to keep the same amount of pressure so you don't blow holes through your paper and you don't like drag lines into it, because that's impossible to erase when you get that point. But a harder pencil, something like 2H, maybe even, 2B, 4B, something along those things, that'll help you get a more graphite on the paper, less graphite on the paper with the same amount of force, so your lines are softer. They'll help you for the next step of refining and erasing up the mess that's hanging around there. Words. A good eraser.
Yeah.
Good erasers. I really love my short little pencil stick erasers. They're like long tube erasers. They hold in a holder like a graphite holder, but for erasers. And I got a variety of different diameters of them. They're great for digging into these small spots. Other people love kneaded erasers because you can basically make whatever shape you want and work it through that. But, good erasers. They're cheap too. There's like $1 or $2. In the grand scheme of things, sketchbook is more expensive than the eraser.
Yeah, I like drawing with ink and drawing with pens just directly. For me, like everybody's different, especially when it comes to like traditional art and the tools they want to use and all that sort of stuff. For me, what I've found more interesting and more of a fun challenge is jumping in with a ballpoint pen or with ink has kind of forced me to be a little bit more deliberate about the lines that I draw, and over time to sort of draw to ignore the less important lines and all that sort of stuff. But that's just personal preference. You can draw with whatever makes you happy.
I'm pretty sure he's a madman.
Yeah. I love drawing ink and ballpoint pens. It's so much fun. It's also messy as hell, but it's has a nice energy to it. With this back sort of the horse, what I've done is I have let's pick a color that isn't already in use. I have kind of pulled this a whole lot, so the back, instead of going from here over to here, it goes from about here to here. And something that I find pretty useful is with the whole back of this horse, or back of horses in general, don't be too worried to just cut off something like there and just be like, okay, that's where the horse ends. Because for a lot of poses, you'll see, especially these sorts of stretched out poses, you'll see these sorts of shapes make sense. So like curving down pretty significantly into this sort of angled thing. Something else to keep in mind is when you're like drawing hooves, how long the hooves are will depend a lot on sort of how curved they are, because every single curve takes up length. So the things that are not curved will be longer. The things that are curved will be shorter. And that's just a really general sort of a point, but it's a really useful point for when you're deciding where hooves should end and all that sort of stuff. Especially when you're trying to like interpret reference and redraw.
I legit
poses
measure
from reference.
the proportions with my fingers.
Yeah, 100%. If you go into like any art class, you'll see like the art, like at least a few of the artists holding out their pencil and then like looking with one eye, and that's just them like literally using the pencil to measure things out. So measuring stuff is always good and always useful. I've even seen like artists like get rulers and like put their rulers up against their books and up against their like tablets and that sort of stuff. If it
Why
works,
didn't I
it
think
works.
of using a ruler with a tablet before?
It's actually really interesting for like getting like straight lines that look a little bit more natural.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
There's
It's
also
weird.
the mesh guides. You can build yourself. It looks like a little fishnet, but stretched out, so it's like a grid. And I've seen like they hold those up against it because it's easier for your brain to like dissect the grid instead of like just the whole piece at once.
Now we're talking the grid as though it's like. No, I don't know where I'm going with this joke. Don't worry about it. The joke failed me.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a measuring and comparing is like a keystone to any artist's arsenal.
Absolutely. I used to go on very long spiels about it. I don't do that anymore.
Bring it back. I know View made a tutorial about it. Like one of his first tutorials was about measuring and comparing.
Still up there.
Drawing My
Still
Little
worth reading.
Pony.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
All right, shall we move on to our next horse?
Yeah.
Horse.
I love the pose. Feel free to keep messing with poses and just like look at references for inspiration and stuff. Look at cats and dogs.
Ooh, yes.
I'll honestly like pull up on Bing image search just like cats sleeping or cats jumping around or dogs jumping around, and then like redraw ponies in those sorts of poses.
Let's be honest, the ponies that we're drawing for My Little Pony, like fan art, are not even like horses anymore. They're just evolved cat dogs.
Yeah.
Very much.
All right. Actually, well, hold on. didn't recognize the name of someone who's in our chat right now. Hey, Unshaken. I believe we have one of your pictures here, and I didn't even notice it. So,
Oh.
yeah, there's a Pinkie Pie here. A Pinkie Pie on space.
Oh yeah, I drew the Pinkie Pie and the one in the office next to it.
Wait, what? Are you two different? Oh, Jesus! I didn't even realize that was you too. All right, we're gonna do the Pinkie Pie. We try and keep it down to one picture per artist per week, just because any of our critique we give you on this one is likely going to move on to the same picture, because you aren't going to do that much changing in a week unless if you are just devoted 12 hours a day of art.
Yeah, okay.
So, you got any questions in particular on this lovely, lovely Pinkie Pie?
No, I've been trying to get more into drawing lately. I think the biggest issue for me has been drawing heads. Like drawing heads and properly pose it, and like do heads and dynamic poses have been like the big thing. I've been getting a little better at them, but not much.
All right.
A good focus.
Were you listening for the last critique we gave towards the end there?
I was muted, I'm sorry.
Okay, so we were talking about proportioning and using references. One of the references we love and adore are cats and dogs, because ponies are actually cats. It's a
inside
universal
robot
truth.
suits.
Yeah. Like, Pinkie Pie is very much a cat. Yeah, they're all cats. They're all just cats. If you give them a sunbeam, they will just sleep in it. So, using like show references is great. There's a lot of dynamics that you can get from show references, and boy howdy should you go ahead and use them. You can either go ahead and grab them right off of Derpy Brewer or your local resource and hook up for horse pictures. Or, there's this thing called My Little Pony, and it was like 8 seasons of episodes, and you could just hit pause on any of those episodes, and there's a bunch of horse references for you.
Today we learned LB doesn't recognize season 9.
No, I don't want to believe that it ended. Yeah, so grab your references. Do you know how to break down a reference?
Yeah, that's what I tried doing here, actually.
Okay. So your reference was sitting horse. Cool. Yeah, so we're going with this. Breaking down your references. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that there are sort of 2 points to. Let me erase all this. If you want to see it again, look at YouTube. If when you're sort of breaking down references and looking at poses and that sort of stuff, there is the first part, which is just seeing the pose and seeing the pose and the reference for what it is, which can just be helped by plain and simple, just like life drawing sorts of stuff. So trying to copy down poses in like a life drawing classy kind of like a way. And then on top of that, you have the exaggeration that you need to sort of apply to it. And a lot of that, you can get a fair bit of like that from life drawing as well. But some of it will also come down to looking at other artists' work and then trying to simplify it. So, for example, something that I like to do, I think I might have mentioned this when you first submitted the Pinkie Pie and Space Drawings. But like, I'll get like just a big sheet, and then I will put on there like a bunch of different like artists' work that I like and pictures that I like. And then I'll like just go over their pictures in like more simplified ways. And then that sort of helps me see, okay, these are the kinds of simplified forms they're using and the kinds of exaggeration that they've applied to their pictures or to their reference material. A little bit later, I'll just chuck an example sort of in the voice chat channel. Something else that's really good for this tale in particular to remember is big, medium, and then small. Basically just contrast. So most
Yeah.
of these sort of bumps are similar kinds of sizes. This one's a little bit different, but something that can make your art look a lot more dynamic is having like little bits of just like experimenting a bit with sort of how big and small things are, and it takes a while of just like messing around, honestly, and like drawing things that don't look good, and eventually you'll get to a point where you're like, oh, I sort of get this and can sort of do it just out of nowhere and that sort of stuff. This kind of thing is where like studying the show references are really good, because they've spent a lot of time tweaking and changing the sort of exaggerated elements of it. These sorts of big, medium, small sorts of things, and putting it to a point where it's like got a really good balance to it and that sort of stuff. I think in general, most of the pose like looks pretty good. You can for these sorts of sitting poses, you can push everything a bit. So, for example, with this line here, I'll just push that like forward just a little bit, and then you can have it like sort of basically just have it feel a little bit more pushed into the ground by sort of having these sorts of curves be a little bit more explicitly there. And at the top of the foreleg, I like having a little bit of like a curve out for the shoulder. I find something like that usually helps when I'm trying to express things.
All right.
Oh, something that's really useful for hooves is that all the hooves, the point where they meet is sort of just like a bit of an ellipse, and then you decide, okay, which direction is this hoof facing? Facing that way? Is it facing that way? Whatever. Once you've got like sort of a direction that it's facing, for example, that way, you can sort of push it a little bit so that it's kind of almost the point of the hoof is sort of in that kind of direction. And this is one of the things that like takes a lot of time to like dig into and to sort of get and all that sort of stuff. But it's one of the things that can like really make your art look interesting and sort of stand out. Being able to like point in sort of any direction and then have it look like that is the direction it's facing and that sort of stuff.
All right.
Yeah. There's a lot of random stuff I'm saying at the moment because.
No, that's okay.
But I do like it. I do like this in general.
Thank you.
It looks good.
Both of them. The Rainbow Dash too.
Yeah.
I love how the mane is sort of contained within the helmet. It's very cool. It's all poofed.
Yeah.
That was actually a tip I got from the first picture I ever posted on the subreddit was another Pinkie Pie on the Moon.
I was wondering if it was that. I was thinking about that one.
And so that one I posted like about almost like over a year ago, which is crazy. And so I remember someone saying to keep it contained within the helmet and
I think that was me.
have the mane is big and poofy, so you want to like try and be pushing to get out of the helmet almost.
Yeah, exactly. I think you've done that really well. Was this inspired by the Pink Side of the Moon album at all, or something else?
100%.
Nice. I drew a picture based on that recently as well. It's such a good album.
It is a good album. I want to see it turned into a live show.
Mine didn't even have a spacesuit. I was just sort of suspension of disbelief, you know.
She's Pink Pie. It's fine.
Exactly.
I'm
I appreciate your realism.
I'm just curious, Unshaken. Have you submitted much sort of sketchy stuff to us before?
No. Usually, what I'll do when I'm doing these drawings, and I've only just figured out how I do digital art, like in the last week, is I'll draw the image first in pencil, like on an actual piece of paper, and then I'll take a picture of it, and I'll start drawing and tracing over it in Krita, and then trying to clean it up and make it look nicer. But I've got the original sketch here. I can post a picture of it in Discord.
No, that's fair. For some future stuff, if you want to just chuck us more pencil sketchy sort of stuff in the critique channel or whatever, that can sometimes be pretty useful for helping you look at like structural stuff, just because we'll be able to see more of the basic forms you use and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll put it. I'll put this up in the critique channel then. Hold on.
Awesome. I'll probably have a bit of a squiz at it once we're finished.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, but here's the original sketch up in. I just posted it.
Oh yeah. Also, I'll probably have a bit of a do a little bit of a red line over there once I've had breakfast and stuff.
Cool.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, arts.
Heck yeah, art. Yeah, no, it looks good. I like it.
Thank you.
You got any other questions for us? Well, you got us here?
Nope. Thank you again, though.
Okay, thank you for submitting art and for drawing things and all that. Because drawing things and submitting stuff is always good.
All right, let's move on to our next horse.
Awesome.
Which will be this one above it. The sort of brownie orange tanny horse.
Yeah.
Made by Austin. Yeah, I think that's the name. I started making digital art recently, and I have no clue how to do shadows / shading properly. How do I improve? Cool. Shadows, shading. That's always good fun. We chose this one out of your other ones. Your other ones had less horse, more car. Your cars look freaking amazing. Made me wonder how much referencing was done on them, because dang, do they pop. But we're going to do this horse because this horse better shows the shading that will be easier to apply in a small term. There we go, words. We'll get there. Okay, so shading. A few very important elements about shading. Pick your source / sources of light. We're going to start out easy. Source, singular. I like to choose the sun because it's bright and it's up in the sky. This horse looks like it might be in a cave or against the side of a mountain, but we're still going to say the sun's just beaming up there. So let's assume, just for sanity's sake, it's somewhere up in the sky, way up high, and it's going to be pointing down here. Go ahead and place an arrow on there. I like to do directional arrows, where they're basically just like 3D cones shoved on them. And that just helps me sort of get an idea of the tilt and positioning of that object that's pointing at it. So we got our light source shining on down. Now, using this as our reference, we get to start laying on some highlights. And it's a timely thing. It takes time. It's not something that you can just hit highlight button. Unfortunately, I really wish there was that, though. But
one day,
as long as we have our reference of our light source, we can always just keep asking, does this make sense for where this light is coming from? So someone is laying down some beautiful shading here that is helping explore this shadow, or where this light's coming and hitting. So if we look at what they're doing, is that you, Pix?
Oh, that's me.
Okay.
I'm the one over here.
Cool. So Len's dropped down some lovely, lovely shadows here. And basically, she's going through and asking herself, is this the right direction of the light based off of my light source? And this is how sorry?
The pronouns are he, him.
Sorry about that. The light source. it's all dropping down from this point. So we got our arrow coming down here. So things like the rump here, we get to go, oh yeah, this is totally just being hit by light. We don't need to drop any shadow on there. But as we cross towards the belly, where it's starting to fold a little past that light, we get to start dropping the shadows down. And you can see some lovely, lovely shadows being laid down here. And that's basically the process. It is a lot of back and forth questioning of yourself. Does this point of light make sense? But for simple cell shading, where you're only doing 2 to 3 passes, meaning you have your midtones, your highlights, and your darks, it should just be a quick question of, is the light hitting here? Is this closer to the light, further from the light? And is it being obscured by anything else, like the hair? All right, anyone else?
Yeah, I will say doing shading properly takes a lot of like sort of just learning and all that sort of stuff. That's why simple shapes like balls, cubes, and cones are really good because they're pretty simple shapes. So you can sort of work out how to shade them without too much trouble. But once you know how to sort of shade those pretty effectively, it's not too much trouble to sort of transition those skills into sort of shading horses, because horses are just ball, sort of like a cylinder kind of shape, weird stretched ball kind of thing. So you can take the lessons you learn from shading these basic shapes and then just transition them to like sort of when you draw a pony without too much drama.
Let's see.
All right, anyone else have any comments about this lovely, lovely horse here?
Yeah, I'm just messing with the legs, but it's nothing that isn't being drawn over there in the corner. Like, super cute purple drawing.
Oh, thank you. The only thing I would mention is be careful of the face. This face reminds me of show style vector art. There was very much a plague onto the fandom with the advertisement vector art they used on a lot of MLP promotional products and such.
Yeah.
I would highly recommend moving away, and a lot of those things have been turned into bases and such for ponies and whatnot. It's not terrible that you use them, but they kind of break a few things, like this nose up here. The nose is going side view while the rest of the face is trying to peer around into like a 3/4 view. So while you can have a more flatter nose, it's just something to be wary of. Really think about like what kind of references you want to find in the future. Maybe stay away from the promotional material. I'd say the show itself probably has a better, especially later
Mhm.
season, has better faces to study.
Yes. The show's a good like
But
starting point, and as you start to get more familiar with that, maybe you try the movie style as well. Is always a good one. The
oh
show's
yeah, the
definitely a
movie
good starting
style.
point.
But yeah, that would just be my 2 cents. Just be careful of what you lean on, because the show is meant to be animated, so they break a lot of stuff a lot of the time. So going off of other fandom artists can be good. Looking at actual horses,
Mhm.
dogs, cats can be good.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about this previously in other pictures. Just like expanding references. Show style is a good base, but there's a lot out there that can really help you art.
So I sort of like, as Ali was talking about the face, I was sort of at the same time drawing a little bit more of a more correct show style, or not exactly show style, but more towards that view. I also just following the sort of red line someone drew here, put the tail up where it should be, because even in the original picture you got a bit of poop tail going on, and so we want to avoid that. The tail's coming out the base of the spine, which ends about there. And so it's going to tuft out at the top there. So you think about like where the tailbone is. That's literally where the tail comes out of, at the bottom of the spine. So you just don't want it coming out too low or at the wrong angle. I definitely recommend doing something more akin to what Ellie's drawn in the bottom left, because it's a much more like dynamic sort of pose where like like yours is fine, but it's not, what you've done is not wrong in any way at all, but it's a little bit more static. And if you want to just have a bit of a sort of fun appearance to it, because they seem happy, they seem like they're sort of trying to present themselves in a fun sort of way. It's good to sort of add a bit more dynamicness to the pose, because otherwise 3 out of 4 of the legs are very static and just kind of sat there not really doing much,
Yeah,
And even a basic standing pose you can make look interesting.
Yeah, if you look at the pose here, you've got this leg that sort of ends here, this leg that sort of ends here, and this leg that sort of ends here. And these two back legs are pretty similar, and all these legs end on like a similar sort of like a horizontal plane, if you wanna say. So if you look at sort of what Ali's done here, this hoof, this front one is a little bit curvy and sort of ends towards the front, towards us. This one is curvy in kind of a different way. It sort of has this like very explicit, it's like backwards curve and then down, and it sort of ends in the middle. And then this back hoof, it sort of has like a lot more of a explicit forward curve to it and that sort of stuff, and ends like a lot behind. That's something when you're doing these sorts of standing poses, is thinking, okay, how do I make every single hoof look different, to add a little bit of visual interest and to sort of all that sort of stuff. But that's the kind of thing that'll come just from looking at actual horses and actual like cats and trying to redraw them and that sort of stuff. So don't stress too much about the pose for now, because that's the sort of thing that will come along with just practice and just like looking at real animals.
So experimenting with maybe sort of like a one leg up, sort of almost in a sort of dancing or tiptoeing sort of pose. There's all sorts of different like interesting things you can do without making it too dramatic or out there. Just play around, have fun.
Yeah. Whenever I'm looking at sort of poses, I always look at the opposite legs. So, for example, on Ali's one, this leg is opposite this leg, and this leg is opposite this leg. And so you can always, if you're doing something interesting with this leg, you can usually do something interesting with the opposite leg, because these two are still going to remain fairly stable, being like opposites of each other and that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a good horse.
Indubitably.
All right, shall we go on to our next horse?
Let's go
I
for
forgot
it.
there was another one.
Yep, there's a twilight here, and apparently a
Hey,
cat.
cutie patootie. Meow.
This is by Meter Meowth. I probably saw him last week. They posted a picture. Heads up, Meter. You tagged me in a different subreddit to critique this. Normally, we try and keep our critique contained down to our subreddit, only because people don't play kindly with critique outside of being asked for it, and that's fine, because generally unsolicited critique is a jerk move. But the
they
problem
posted it in a
is,
completely different group.
Yeah, it was posted on the main subreddit rather than our little.
I didn't know. When
one.
you said main subreddit, I thought that you meant that they put it onto the MLBDS rather than PMing it to you.
No,
I don't know what main subreddit refers to exactly.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, generally in the terms of horse subreddits, main means the ML like.
Oh, I thought you meant like MAIN.
Oh.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
I confusion has been
Gosh,
sorted.
posting in other subreddits, that's
Yeah.
illegal. Not allowed.
I mean, it's completely fine. We tend not to critique outside of our subreddit just to ensure that optics are good. We don't like people being upset, and it's easier just to post it elsewhere. Cross posting is a completely legitimate thing that Reddit even supports.
Yeah. Don't feel
I,
like
I
we'll get mad for double posting or whatever.
I,
So
I
let's-
really like
Oh.
all the lines and shapes and stuff. Yeah.
You did a very
I
good
love the
job.
colors. And I love the eyes. I think my favorite feature has been the eyes so far for the work I've seen from you.
The horn, though, that every time I look at this horn, it's bothering me, and I think it's because the way it's built and like the flatness that everything gives makes it just look like it's a piece that goes directly up, and there's no. It's hard to get the indication that it's moving forward off the head. And I think the biggest issue is you do these nice hard lines to do separations, things like your mouth, your chins, your mouth, all the chin, that. There's no hard line to tell us there's a separation here, a change in direction really going on. I would try and urge you to bring one of those dark black lines they've done for the base of that horn, just to clarify things for the rest of us. Especially from a front angle. If you're to turn this head 5-10 degrees, no one would question it because ultimately the horn is at a very clear different angle.
I could see it either way. I don't mind the way that it is currently, but you can always experiment a bit with sort of rather than more horizontal lines that sort of indicate that it's facing almost more straight up. Just having it like sort of
I think
angled
it's
down a bit.
ending right here. I think that what's confusing is that it ends lower than what you'd expect to where it would
Yeah.
end.
See, I was wondering that at first, but I almost wonder if it doesn't. It does end up higher, and we're getting the tangent from the hairline that makes us think that it's going down lower, which throws it all off for us.
Yeah, the only thing that makes me not think that is the hair seems to very deliberately on the inside have a particular color to it, and you can see where the line color changes from black to the sort of dark blue for the line for the hair. So it seems pretty deliberate where it ends, or at least where it becomes overlapped by the main. If that makes sense.
I think if you want to establish that difference, we're gonna have to futz with the tangent created by the hairline itself. The changing of the color is it's just so dark. I can't tell the difference between the dark blue and the black of the horn.
It's not like the worst tangent in the world, but it is definitely like causing a bit of confusion as to where the horn starts. I think the easiest way is just to more accurately define where the horn is separated, like these guys are doing here. You can always experiment with like doing little sort of bits of hair stranding off as well, but it's up to you how messy you want to be. So just to create a little bit more like overlap,
Oh, I know.
Oh.
So you have kind of these small drop shadows on the clothing. You could probably do similar things here with the face as well. Like you could have a small drop shadow under the chin, have a small drop shadow, under the horn. So you don't have to make an explicit line, but you're making the line with the shadow instead, and that can help push where exactly everything is, because then everything just gets a nice little drop shadow to define where things get cut off, and it goes along with your style because it's matching the clothing. It's matching that little drop shadow. It's not like full rendering, but a nice little drop shadow.
Along those kinds of lines, and along the lines of the ambient occlusion-y stuff we were talking about earlier, way earlier, I always like having a little bit of like a shadow stuff, like here, kind of like above the where the nose is, because there's like a bit of a pinch there. And then I like going a little bit further and just having like some similar sorts of things on the cheek. But that's just me.
They look super cute, honestly. Like if they want to add that, I think it's cute.
With the I'm just going back to horn for a little bit. The entire stream is going to be just like on this horn, but something that I sort of, I guess,
Wondering for
subscribe
the
to when
difference with
I'm
Twilight.
something that I subscribe to, I guess, when I'm like drawing horns is that I either leave these like lines out completely or I make them curved.
Yeah, I usually would make
And
them curved.
if I can't like find a decent way to sort of make them curved with the
I don't know if it
with
would
the
look different like this.
oh, okay. If I
I know,
can't
just
find a
experimenting.
if I can't find a decent way to sort of make them look curved with sort of the angle the horns out and that sort of stuff, I will honestly usually just leave them out because they're not strictly necessary. But they do like if they're curved, if they're curved, then they do like express a certain kind of like motion.
Yeah, spiral in a direction.
Yeah, but that's just what I do. No stress, no dramas. These knots here and the like sort of the I love these lines. They look so good.
I really love how you colored the hair, like how it's still clearly Twilight's hair, but like the different areas where you add the different colors. And I like how there's like it's sort of streaky, and it's not like because I know we always talk about spaghetti hair, and you have the right amount of spaghetti going on in a good way. Like some people
Without
just
being
eat
too
spaghetti
much,
fresh,
yeah.
and yeah, like I like the texture this brings, especially since it's like a very flat piece and it's a very stylistic piece, and I love that. And I like that the texture just gives it that little oomph and reads it makes the hair feel like its own thing. Um, ramble, but yeah, I like it. I really do. And little sparkles.
Mm. You could have a little tiny bit of a curve on the bottom thing here, but at the same time, I do like how it, like graphically, how it like looks being all straight there.
Honestly, I have to point it out. I love the gap in the teeth.
So cute.
It's so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, the design is really cute, and I'm super loving the eyes as well.
I'm just messing about with the shoulders and like maybe having one a little bit more raised and one a little bit more lowered or something like that. Just to impart a little bit more direction and all that sort of stuff to the pose.
The way they
But
are
that's
definitely
something
gives
you can
that,
mess with.
poofy shoulder, the sort of outfit, where they have the poofy shoulder.
Medieval
Yeah.
shoulder things.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like it. Looks good. Feel free to track us some more sketchy stuff if you want. Like we're always into like looking at human art, but like the sketchier and more work in progressy stuff is sometimes we can help refine shapes and that sort of stage a little bit better and all that sort of stuff as well. But to be honest, there's a lot of good stuff going on here. So like a lot of the stuff that we're pointing out is just either nitpicks or, hey, you could do this. Hey, you could do that. So,
Yeah. Ooh, something that also can help is specific questions for us. Like,
Mm.
why? I always like to try and get people asking for critique. Like, why are you asking for critique? Sometimes it could just be general. Some people are just like, I'm not quite sure. I just want to see where people see where I'm at or whatever. But sometimes if it's, if you have a specific question, that's always better because the critique's more of a discussion than it is like, oh, tell me what's wrong and then I'll go off and fix it. Like it's much better to have like a good critique to be a discussion and get feedback and back and forth. Because with style stuff, we could all say 1,000 answers, but you want the 1,001st answer, and it's like we
is
won't know.
yeah, is there basically like is there anything that you think looks off or that you want to like explore differently stylistically or that you want us to specifically dig into? Those, cause if you even if you don't have like any specific questions like, oh, why does the wing look like bad? Just
Question.
a bit of a just a bit of a note like, I'm not quite sure about my noses. I want to mess with noses and see what other things could look better in terms of noses. Doing just like giving us like a explicit direction like that can be like, oh, cool. Now we can like dig into noses for half an hour.
Yeah.
All right. Does anyone else have any other art they'd like to submit this week? Any other questions they'd like to ask? Any other, stories of fighting giant and small spiders? In giant or small spiders wearing suits that make them look like giant spiders.
Okay, I do need to ask who on earth pasted this amazing looking clip art in the bottom right of the canvas.
My God, Fluffy, you went above and beyond.
Don't expect this kind of effort every time, but I love Mudkip. Okay. I gave him a little Pokemon Mystery Dungeon scarf as well because I love that game.
So
My
cute.
first time playing it was a Mudkip.
Is so cute.
Thank you. It was because I've just been rewatching the Game Grumps Pokemon Art Academy, and it's really fun because it's such like a limited,
yeah.
DS drawing program. It makes you appreciate having like Clip Studio Paint, and so like Aggie's still like a step up from that. And like I was like, I've been watching Russ draw like Pokemon with like very basic tools all day. I can do this with Aggie.
I might actually chuck this in just to get people's thoughts on it, especially sort of around about the wings. I'm kind of pretty happy with the ears and the direction those are going, but I don't know, just messing with the wings. If anybody has like wants to have a bit of a squeeze at that and mess with it a bit, I think honestly I need to like just draw like 1,000 more birds, but
It always feels like that, doesn't it? I really love the colors. I know you're asking about the wings, but I admire the colors you use because it's like you're not just color picking, but it all still looks really nice and saturated and just it's lovely. I like your color choices.
Thank you. I want Dashy to look like a little gremlin.
I approve.
Nice.
Let's see. Are we pasting it into the canvas?
Yeah, sorry, I
or-
was trying to
Okay.
figure out why it was overwriting a file, but then I realized that every file saved from Discord is unknown. Nope, wrong layer. One moment. Oh, no.
Wrong layer, Kronk.
Done. Now I gotta post like another picture and then I can repost it. Yeah, because Discord or Eggy cord.
Discord.
Drawing on the
Howling at the
moon.
moon.
Your art style is always so expressive. Like it's so like cartoony, like simplistic in the sense that it's like you like rather than going into like a more anatomical approach, you're like, let me just like get the shapes down. Like it's obvious what you've drawn. So like you still like know how to get that across, and it has such a fun like feel to it. I really like it.
Here's a horse-shaped lump. Enjoy.
I always love seeing like the little comics you draw and the little squiggles and doodles and stuff because they're great. It's so loose.
Is it weird that Pixie's characters have what I imagine his eyes look like? Like the sort of half-lidded, like he talks in
Yeah.
as though he. Okay, in our defense, when
Pixie
we
is
talk to him,
chill,
he's just
yeah.
waking up. So,
Yes.
but all
But
of his characters seem that sort
I've
of.
never heard Pixie not with this chill voice.
Yeah, my little brothers can coax it out of me if they poke and annoy me
I
so much.
imagine, yeah.
So do you think you want to head for a more folded wing, or you want to keep it open or fluttery, or what do you think the direction you want to head in is?
I think probably. Oh, I almost started drawing with my ink pen on my tablet. For this one, I probably want it to be a little bit more like all folded over and stuff. And for this one, I want it to be like a little bit more out.
Mm-hmm.
And her Bina the body's just rolled over, like her hips are going whoa, right?
Yeah, I kind of like imagine her like one of her legs going like there, and one of her other legs like going there, like she's sort of twisted
Right.
around.
Yeah, I can see
Awesome.
that.
I'd almost want to play with something where she's just kind of like laying her wings stretched out on the ground somehow.
Yeah, so because that would be interesting. It's like a super sort of like floppy, like low energy. Let me just like splurge across the ground like a blanket, a pony-shaped blanket. The only sort of issue with it would be how far back the wing could. It would easily, yeah, because it's got to do like the upward flaps, right? So it could easily bend up that high. I think. I'm often sort of like wary of like bending it that way, but it totally would be able to.
Yeah, bigger. Small? Maybe. Oh,
Trying to picture like if you look at like watch videos of birds yawning and stretching, like they do like one wing at a time, and it's like I'm trying to maybe capture that somehow, where one's just like flop down and the other's like trying to stretch out.
Yeah, I would totally do this one just going up like almost that it's waving, right?
Oh, that'd be cool. Absolutely.
Just trying to get the angle right to match that one, but it doesn't have to match because they're articulating. They turn, right? Because horses are also hummingbirds at the
She
same
could just
time.
be sort of like stretching it out and just sort of like loosening up the feathers and stuff.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go to a reference for this one.
I heard the references were illegal. I'm sorry.
Ooh.
Oh.
No,
Well,
we'll be shut down.
you'll have to come get me, Bobo.
I'll
That's it.
start
Come
my
stop me
illegal
from using
reference
Bing.
shop.
My little reference, my little reference.
Also, with reference to this picture, I will say that Clip Studio vector layers are the greatest, and I love them.
Have you found out the secret eraser?
I've been very familiar using the vector eraser now for a while.
Oh, okay.
It's so good. I love it. Especially because like whenever I'm drawing, what I'll do is I will like always start off drawing like this, and then I'll get to sort of the end of the picture, and then I'll be like, oh, all of my like these lines I need to like go through and manually like sort of erase them and try to like.
Yeah, I used to have to deal with that as well. What I started doing was I don't have like a lot of sketch layers. I have a lot of lining and coloring layers, but with sketch I have only 3 usually, 4 if they have like clothes and stuff. But I just I literally don't even name them. I just number them like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and usually I'll just color code them blue and red, whatever. But I start with 0 as just like a light cyan. I just do like the really rough, messy, loose under sketch, like expressive and gestury and stuff. And then like with the 1, I'll just draw in a darker blue and just start like refining it and everything. So then I could just turn 0 off, and boom, I've got the thing without the unsketch.
I could learn those good art techniques, or I could use vector layers and just grab these 3 lines and then click delete. I think I do
I
need to
still
start
haven't gotten in
messing
the
with
habit of
layers.
using those. I used them once and they seemed very clunky to me, and I was like, no, I can't be bothered.
All right, Fluffy. Now just hear me out here. We've used an iStock photo as our reference. It is glorious, and I haven't included just writing iStock everywhere. Tip of the wing, turned the opposite direction. Check it out.
I do like that.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of
There
it
it
like
is.
being in mid flap, like pulling forward, and that sort of gives it the motion of pulling forward, but in a lazy sort of way.
Is that Ali drawing the wing there?
I drew the dark one.
Okay.
I drew the green.
I love the sort of layered, almost flat ribbon like look you've got going there.
All of these red ones are amazing, and I love them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Len is good at drawing. Yay.
I just learned that there's 3 joints in the wing and pretty easy to
Yes,
map.
it's an arm.
They're gonna go
Something that
places.
I always really like focusing on when I'm drawing wings is this opacity up. Oh no, that's the same color that I used to actually draw the line at. You silly. I always like messing with this when the wing is sort of turned where this front is facing us. I always like pretty explicitly sort of drawing this middle vein going down as sort of like the thing. I find that really helps when I'm doing stuff. Focus on that. This is me talking to myself, so that when I watch this on YouTube later, I'll remember that I was thinking that at the time.
Note to future Pixie.
Note to future pics, yeah. But no,
Just looking at pictures of birds stretching.
Mm.
And I just want all Pegasuses to now stretch this way, where it's just like, hold on, let me grab it.
You just have to draw it,
When
right?
when they stretch their wings, they're like bird legs go with the wing to stretch. It's like I want to see Pegasus is doing that now.
Oh, that's interesting.
Oh. Neat.
So,
So
Inky.
graceful.
Huh?
Well, Inky's a bird cat.
Oh,
Right.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. That's absolutely fair.
Do it. Draw the picture. Draw the picture.
I like the
Time.
I like the one wing up and then one wing forwards, because that creates the difference in the visual interest stuff. Whereas at the moment it's just one wing up, other wing up in a bad position.
No, I wouldn't say that. I actually like yours because it kind of frames the body, and I like your like
Mhm.
fluffiness. With your style, I feel like you can do a bit what show does, and your style and realism don't like go hand in hand. Your style benefits, like, in my opinion, from how loose and how flowy and how much you capture the energy in a pose.
Mm.
So the idea of these wings, like I like how they kind of fluff off. It's kind of like this nice little frame. It feels like softness, you know? It's they are good.
Well, thank you.
All right. Anyone else have any other questions they'd like to ask? Any other pictures they'd like critique? Any other commissions they'd like to get of plushies? Just generally.
Ooh. You know, just ask for a friend.
Yeah.
Len, I'm gonna totally steal all of these wings, especially
Okay.
this and the way that these like top and bottom bits transition into each other, and the sorts of oh my god, look at it, oh my god. And I'm gonna, in addition to actually looking at birds, I'm gonna look at Len's wings, and especially the ones that he erased earlier, because I was like, I know it would look so good.
Oh, I might
What
not have
the-
captured those on frame.
No, I think you did,
Okay.
or else.
I don't know.
Or else
I
we'll have-
might just like make a whole reference sheet if you want. Like I like drawing random wings like this. It helps.
But if you do, definitely link it and check it my way, because I love them. Ah, they're so good.
All right. Well, with that, I believe this is the end of today. So thank you all for coming, and we'll see you again next week. Goodbye.
Bye.
Why?